Welcome to the Level Up Your Band podcast, episode 77. Hello, and welcome back to the Level Up Your Band podcast. My name is Gavin Patterson. I'm back with Julian Pombo.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. I just realized something really funny that so just before we started the podcast, I was talking about how I'm an absolute riot fashion-wise. I've got the brown shoes, I've got the blue jeans, I've got the pink shirt, I've got orange socks. I forgot that my my underwear and my socks are matching today. So for those of you listening, I am got some orange boxers. I'm rocking like neon orange, like super bright.
At least it's coordinated.
It is coordinated,
Coordinated chaos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
well,
there you go. Fun fact.
This is a podcast, so who cares? No one can see it anyway, unless you're watching
unless
on YouTube.
you're on YouTube, in which case I'm not taking my trousers off, so you can.
No.
You just have to trust me.
No, we've got that clean content, little ticky box
family
thing.
Friendly content.
Yeah. So last week we mentioned that we were going to do something this week. I can't remember exactly what I said, but it was something along the lines of, if you were starting a band from scratch, what advice would you need in order to do it properly and, to avoid mistakes and stuff. So if you're new to the podcast and you haven't been here for the whole run, what this episode / 2 episodes, I don't know, it depends on how long we go just now. I don't know how long this will run for. I might split it into 2, but I don't know, we'll see. So the purpose of this little sort of series / episode is to basically, it's a highly concentrated, concise, distilled guide for starting a new band using the Level Up Your Band philosophy that we've developed over the last 76 episodes. So it's just all the biggest lessons for each stage of a band's life that we've talked about, but in one episode instead of 77. So I mean, like, that's there's a lot to 76 episodes, a lot to go through, just to get, so it's probably a good idea to distill all this information. Please go back and listen, because we obviously go through things in much finer detail. This is very much a very broad, what's that series of books? The Spark Notes? No idea.
I can't. Basically, it's just like it's like a very detailed summary of like a book. So rather than like sitting and reading through the entirety of Crime and Punishment or something like that.
Gives you
you just read the Spark Notes and it gives you like. It's not the same thing.
I've read some stuff like that where it's essays based on books. Mm-hmm. So there's someone who gives you like a 5-page essay on a 1,000-page book.
Yeah,
some of them are quite good.
Yeah, basically this episode is that version. Yeah, there's the version for the entire podcast.
It's abridged.
Yes,
Level Up Your Band abridged.
Level Up Your Band abridged.
So so we'll get right into it. So I've broken it down into 8 steps.
8 steps.
So I couldn't, as you said when we came in, couldn't you have rounded up to 10? No, I couldn't.
No, I mean, at least it's still a round number.
I didn't start with like, I'm going to do 8 steps. I just was like, step 1, right, what did I do? Step 2, okay, so.
Yeah.
So based on all the Level Up Your Band stuff, just thinking back for the past year and a bit, how can I make this as concise as possible? So we'll start with step 1. Songwriting. That's the song. So every band starts with the songs. You never say never, but you almost never hear of a band that starts without songs.
No.
You can imagine going to a band rehearsal and going, "Hey, it's nice to meet you. Also, let's play something. Does anyone have any music?" No.
No, I mean, like, usually what's happened, I've been in situations like that, and what usually happens is people just agree to learn a couple of covers, and you just play through them, and it's just to get a feel for how everybody plays, and like, you know, stuff like that. So I have been in that situation before, where you're jamming with some people, and then what tends to happen afterwards is that you then go, let's write. I've brought in this riff. Let's try and do something with it. Or I wrote a song after the rehearsal. You know, that kind of thing. But you're right in that most bands. There's a couple of bands that have started like that. You know, but not many of them.
Yeah. So I would say
certainly not a very efficient way of doing it.
No, definitely not. But I think there's like tried and true way of doing it is get your songs sort of written before you start a band. So if you're starting a new band from scratch with new musicians, it's a totally new project. Yeah. And there are, the way I see it, there are two ways of writing music in a sort of poppy rock band or whatever it is. Way one is one or two individuals that provide the material. So that's chords, melody, and lyrics. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to come from one person, but it's usually one person. Yeah,
it's usually one person, or sometimes it's a Lennon-McCartney situation.
Yep. Usually, the less people, the better. Mm-hmm. Just you know how it is. Too many cooks and all that.
Yeah.
And way number two is it's riff based. So riff based music usually is, you know, the guitarist or the bassist or the drummer comes up with a groove or a fill or a hook or a riff, and they bring it into the rehearsal studio and they say, "Hey, check out this riff," and then they jam to that riff and then they write music based on that riff.
Yeah,
that's how Dream Theater write all their music in the past. Anyway, they John Petrucci would bring in a riff and they go, "Cool riff," and then they would jam it for half an hour, and then they would get something from that, and then they would add it into something.
Yeah, and obviously the third way is human sacrifice.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I've tried and tested.
Yeah,
you're a bit expensive, but
yes, your eldest child. You take them out and sacrifice them to the sun god. Am I right, or is it the rain god?
It depends on what kind of genre.
Depends on the genre.
Depends on the genre.
Okay. If it's country music, it's the tractor god.
Yeah, exactly. It's the harvest god. It's the god of corn.
Not the metal band.
No.
So that's the two ways of doing it. So most bands will be doing the first way. So you're thinking like WhatsApp demos, you know, acoustic guitar and vocals. That's majority of people that I deal with anyway. That's how they write music. Is just they sit down with a guitar.
Yeah,
and they write something, and usually it accumulates in their WhatsApp chats.
Yeah, and if you're if you're in an instrumental band like we're in, it's lots of disparate PDFs. Yeah. And MuseScore files and Sibelius files all over the place.
Yeah. In our case, it's strange because we almost never have fully fledged arranged pieces, so we kind of do a hybrid. So someone comes in with 16 bars of music, and we turn that 16 bars of music into a full 7-minute monster.
Yeah.
Milking that riff dry.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
But that's kind of like a hybrid situation where someone comes in with an idea, and then we just riff on it, and it becomes something. So if you are the songwriter, I'd recommend getting at least 3 songs written before you start rehearsing, because if you have one and you're rehearsing with a band, say it's a weekly rehearsal schedule, there's only so much you can do with one song.
Yeah, most studios you're booking it, you know, 3 hours. It's like a 3-hour slot. It's only so much you can do with one song in 3 hours.
Yeah, it get really boring really quickly.
Oh, yeah.
So I would say 3 songs is kind of a good amount. Have more in the back burner, but bringing to a rehearsal, I think 3 songs is a good magic number. A song an hour, if you like.
Yeah.
So it just gives you like little bite-sized chunks that you can take. And if you plan on doing riff-based music and you do write as a band, then you have to make sure that you have something of an idea to jam to when you actually turn up. So don't be just like, oh, has anyone got any riffs? I don't know. You know. So speak to people in advance, like, oh, if anyone's got any cool like riff ideas or suggestions.
Yeah, just bring them in.
Bring them in. I did a rehearsal a couple of weeks back with an old band that I haven't played with since 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
And we were playing some old material that I, from the old days, I couldn't even remember until they started playing it, that kind of thing. It was just it wasn't anything serious. It was just a little jam. But the guitarist had this random riff that he kind of came up with that he was working on or whatever, and he just, do you want to play something? And he played this riff, and then we all just played a thing, and then it became somewhat of an arrangement in the space of like half an hour. It's like, that's kind of riff-based writing, like no lyrics, nothing. It was just riffs and chords and some sort of an arrangement to work on. And I love writing music like that. That's what I used to do when I was 18 in some bands when I left school. It's fun.
Yeah.
Rather than just a songwriter writing a song and saying, hey, play this. I like that as well, but for different reasons. So, yeah, that's songwriting. It's simple. Like, you have to start with the song. The song is king. That is it. If you don't have a song, you don't have a band. And get that started. And be clear on what you want style-wise. So make sure you have a clear understanding of the style of music that you're going to write. So don't write a song that's, it could be a country song, it could be a whatever song. Obviously, all songs can be anything that you want them to be. If it's like, you can take any song and make it in any style you want. Most songs are like that. You can take a country song and make it metal if you wanted, but make sure that you're going down a path that you understand.
Yeah.
So don't write in a genre or a style that you have no clue about.
Yeah.
Just because you want to doesn't mean you maybe should.
Yeah. Totally. Like, I'm not saying we're not trying to we're not discouraged. So like, if you've only ever played in punk bands and you're like, actually, I do listen to a lot of this kind of thing, and I play it in say like you've only ever played in DIY bands, but you play a lot of jazz in your downtime, and you're wanting to get into like jazz music, and you have some understanding of it. That's fine.
Yeah,
that's okay. It's like, I'm trying to think. Like, be like me. I don't understand Europop.
Yep.
At all.
Yep.
Right. I've listened to 1 or 2 tracks, and it's interesting. It's hilarious, right? But I don't. It's entertaining for me, but I would never start a Europop project because I wouldn't know where to start.
Right.
Right. I guess that's what you're kind of getting at.
Yeah.
There. Yeah.
So, and the way you tell, it's quite easy. The way you tell what style you should write, it's the stuff you like.
Yeah.
Primarily, that's it. If you enjoy it, then the chances are you know quite a lot about it. You listen to a lot of music with that style. You probably understand it quite well. That's the style you want to do. Usually that's the first thing people think of. They're like, oh, I want to start a metal band, I want to start a prog band, I want to start a country band. Make sure you've heard a lot of stuff in that style. Hear what other people are doing, and it kind of informs you.
Totally. And if you like 2 separate things, you can try and combine them and see if you can make something new. That's always fun.
A niche, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of all I had on songwriting. It's just be clear on what you're trying to do. Don't be vague. I've heard of bands, I know of bands that try and be all things simultaneously. They try and be a country band, they try and be a folk band, they try and be a jazz band, they try and be a rock band. Like every style, you listen to their album and it's just a mishmash of every genre you can think of, and it's terrible. It's just terrible. You can't master that many different styles at the same time. It's impossible. You're jack of all trades and master of none. Just focus on a sound to begin with. If you want to venture off at some point in the future into another genre, do that later. But focus on one thing, one style, and get really good at it before you move and change your sound up. It should happen naturally. It shouldn't be forced. It shouldn't be like, oh, I want to appeal to all these different markets, so I'm going to write songs for all these different markets. That's stupid.
Yeah, imagine if we try to do that with food. You know, like, I'm gonna create the most like bland, inoffensive food that everybody can actually. No, we do have that.
Oh,
it's called a potato.
Yeah, Julian doesn't like potatoes. Don't know why.
No, I love potatoes now.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. I went through like the weirdest like redemption arc where I hated. I love potatoes and potatoes betrayed me, and now I'm all about the potato, man. Baked potatoes, mashed potatoes.
That's weird. I didn't know you had this
whole thing.
Change of heart. Oh, potatoes.
Yeah. No, totally. I've seen the light, man. I've seen the carb laden light.
I've just thought of a food analogy. You know those big world buffet places that you go to where they do every single flavor, every single culture. Like they have Portuguese food, they have Chinese, they have Thai, they have everything. And it's
pizza, lasagna, it's all there. Everything.
And 9 times out of 10, I've never been to a place where every single thing has been like amazing. It's always very, very meh.
The only place I can think of, but even then they just specialised on one thing, although to be fair, there's a lot of things that weren't Chinese there. China Buffet King,
right,
a classic.
Right.
A classic
It's
staple.
not exactly fine dining.
No, it is not fine dining.
Because they're trying to offer everything. It's like, see when you go to Chinese restaurants and they do a sit-in. There's a local takeaway that have a little sit-in. It's like 5 miles away from here. And sometimes we go there. It's okay. But the menu has like 250 things on the menu. It's mental. There is no reason for that. But see when you go to like some, higher grade, more expensive restaurants, there's maybe like 15 things on the menu. Because they've picked 15 things and they're really good at those 15 things.
Totally. It's like on the subject of like, Asian food, it would be somewhere like Nippon Kitchen.
Yeah.
In Glasgow, which is, right next to Wagamama's, but Wagamama's has like loads of things. Like their menu's huge.
Having said that, I think that's just an Asian thing in general. That the Asian restaurants, Chinese especially, they're different from us in that the more there is on the menu, the better the place is. That's how they think about it. They think quantity is more important than quality.
Whereas for me, like a good sign of whether a place is good is if they have like less than 10.
Paisano.
7
options.
No, not only you technically you get one option and 7 variations of the one option.
Yeah.
Pizza. That's it.
Pizza and ice cream.
Yeah, you don't even get a choice of like base or anything like that. It's the same dough. It's the same. It's mozzarella cheese, tomato base.
Yeah.
None of your barbecue nonsense.
So bringing it back to music.
Bringing it back to music, you want to be like paisanos. You want to be very
competent in one thing.
Competent in the one thing. I mean, not to upset somebody we know absolutely loves paisanos. I think it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. I've been to better pizza places. You'll probably tell me I'm lying, but you want to just focus on nail that one thing, even if it's like a niche thing, nail it and really work on it.
Yep.
And be unapologetic about it. Just absolutely capitalize on it.
Yep.
So that's what will make you stand out. You know.
Yep. Cool. So that's songwriting. So moving on, step 2 to starting a new band. Recruiting musicians. So you've got your songs, you've written them at home, and you kind of know what your style's going to be. So this is quite a short one. We've got a couple of episodes on this, on finding the right musicians, but to know what type of musicians you need to recruit, first you need to know what style of music you're going to write. Obviously, you've figured that out, because different musicians are better at different genres, obviously. So it's kind of borrowing from the gig philosophy thing. I've added this in. You say this sometimes. I think
it was mentioned in it was Liam
Shorthill.
It was in the Liam Shorthill.
So,
and I was like, yes, that is correct.
I've actually heard that since he said that. I've heard that from a few people since then.
Yeah.
So in order to find the right musician for your band, you need to know 3 things. Are they a good hang? 2, good musicians. 3, reliable.
Yeah.
Now in the gig analogy thing, it's you have to have at least 2 of those things.
Two out of 3.
And it's good pay. Good pay.
Could you get away with 2 out of 3?
I don't think you could.
Not really.
You need them all.
You kind of need to, because somebody could be an absolute monster on their instrument.
Yeah.
Like, as virtuosic as they come, be extremely reliable, but they're just insufferable.
Yep.
I've worked with musicians like that.
Yeah,
where like they'll turn up, they can do what they're supposed to do, but it's just hard.
Yeah,
it's hard to be with them in the same room for an extended period of time, which is a shame. You never want to be in that situation. It's horrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, the gig thing is, are the people that you're playing with good to hang out with? Is the pay good? And is the music good? And you can get away with 2 out of those things, right? Because if the money's good and the music's good, you can overlook quite a lot of the people. If there's some kind of megalomaniac kind of whatever, at least I'm getting paid decent money and the music's fun to play. So like that's fine. If the people are good and the pay is really good and the money is the pay is really good, but the music is absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
That still works because you're still earning money, and the people are really fun to be with. And now, if the music's good and the people are good, but the money isn't that good, then it's just you're in a wonderful passion project, basically.
Yep.
Yep. So in either of those 3 scenarios, you kind of win. Ideally, and it is possible. I feel like I'm in one at the moment. I'm in a band that pays well, the people are good to hang out with, and the music's pretty fun to play. You can totally. That's
ideal.
It's ideal. It's not going to be every gig, but it does exist. Yeah. It's not as much of a unicorn as you think it might be. Like it is there,
right?
But
when you're from the perspective of recruiting a musician, obviously you want them to be so good to hang around with. Because if you're in a room with someone that's completely impossible, it can just ruin everything. And if they're not a good musician, if they're just incompetent and terrible, and they don't practice and they don't put any effort in, they don't learn their parts, they forget the chords, they don't bring their chord sheet, that's a nightmare as well. But they might be nice to hang around with, but yeah. And then reliable, they're always showing up late, they always forget rehearsal, they get lost on the way to gigs because they don't know how to read a map. You ask them to answer emails and they'd forget, or they send emails to the wrong clients or the wrong customers or venues or whatever you're dealing with. And so I think there's more at stake in this situation. So it's hard, but you've got to do it because you want reliable, good people around you in your band. You don't want a bunch of flakes, and you don't want a bunch of, I don't know, horrible people. You want it to be nice.
Yeah, totally. You want good co-workers,
Yep.
you know.
So there's not much more to say about that. We've done episodes on this, but this is just summing up, as we said.
Yeah, totally, 100%. We've done episodes talking about how you would go out, about recruiting somebody, or how you would go about doing an audition.
Yep.
You know, things like that. But yeah, so you can go listen to those ones.
Yep.
And check them out if you want more info. But yeah, that's
pretty much it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So, I've put step 3 is social media. So, a big, huge, gargantuan, massive, I'm trying to think of the mistake that bands make. And I've seen this fairly recently, actually, with a band that I've come into contact with. They wrote, rehearsed, recorded, gigged at least 10 tracks, 10 songs, and never opened a social media account.
No Facebook, no Instagram,
Nothing. They played gigs, they recorded a full album, rehearsed tight as anything, and never released anything.
Is this a boomer band?
No.
Wow. Okay.
No, average age 25.
Oh, come on.
And they split up. Surprise. So, yeah.
Did they split up because they weren't getting any gigs?
No, they were getting gigs.
They were getting gigs.
But when you don't have an audience, when you don't have any hype, you don't have any feedback, it can become very lonely. It can become very pointless. It can feel pointless. Like, why am I doing this? Like, some people need some sort of feedback. You know, they're putting on all this creative input. You need something back. Otherwise, you don't know if what you're doing is right. It goes for anything. Like, you can't just create stuff in a vacuum. It needs to go out. You need to get, in order to hone your craft and become better, you need some way of getting feedback. And there was no social media presence whatsoever. And I've seen this so many times from bands where they're holding off. Oh, we'll wait till we've got enough material. But you need to have it off the bat. As soon as you're formed as a band and you're jamming and you're rehearsing, it's time to open up a social media account. Every single platform. So first thing you should do, once you've got your band, you've got your songs, and you've started working, get the name of the band, and then open up a social media account on every platform, everything, and post regular updates. At first you open up your page and then you share it amongst all your friends, and then you get massive amount of likes in the first week, and then it's stagnant after that because, who are you? Like, you haven't released anything. That's fine. So in the beginning, you post regular updates like, oh, we're in the studio today rehearsing. Here's some pictures, videos, song demos, just wee updates saying like, we're building this thing. This train's starting to roll down the tracks. Like, building up hype. We're starting. We're getting our foot in the door. Like, all this. That's the type of mood you want to portray. It's like we're going. We're getting going. You've got to build up some sort of hype, so that when you start to release things and you start to announce gigs, you've got an audience that's warmed up. They're kind of like, oh, they're finally doing a gig. I'll go and see them. If you're completely not on social media, and then you get on social media and then you post on it and you're like, hey, check out our new album. Sorry, who are you? No, I'm not going to check out your album. Who are you? You're like 5 minutes old. You've got to start before all that and build up a little bit of hype. See Todd Howard. If anyone remembers the release of Fallout 4 in 2015, that hype train was insane.
I mean,
if anyone can remember that.
Fallout 4.
That was crazy.
And it's Fallout 76 was even bigger.
It was even bigger. And the actual end result was terrible, but that's besides the point. But they rolled along that hype train for so long. But it's a good method. So constantly work on building a following. Constantly. You should be constantly posting, constantly updating. It's relentless and tiring and annoying, but it needs to be done because you need some sort of presence, like I said, to give you that creative feedback.
Yep.
So you're not just throwing your stuff out into the void. The amount of bands I know who have created, masterpieces in the studio and released it to nobody. Tumbleweed City. Nothing. You look on their Spotify and it's epic 12-track albums sitting there with sub 1,000 streams. It's heartbreaking because there's some great music out there that's just no one's listening to because there's just no hype, there's no following, there's nothing. Mm-hmm. It's a shame. Don't be like that. Don't be that band. That's all I've got to say on social media. If you've got anything.
No, totally. Try and be creative with your social media use as well. Actively engage with your fans.
100%.
Do Q&As. On. I've seen a lot of Instagram pages do this. They'll just
polls and stuff.
Yeah, polls, but then they're like, every Wednesday is an Ask Me Anything Wednesday. So like people will just fire in questions, and then you with Instagram you only get a minute to sort of reply. So there's that little bit of it's fun limitation for you to work with, but things like that. And one of my favorite, more creative ways of, I don't know if Mac DeMarco's on social media anymore, but when he was on it, on Instagram, he would just fire in the most random hashtags. Mm-hmm. He would tag his pictures with it might be like a picture of him on tour, and it'd be like hashtag dogs of Instagram, hashtag coffee, hashtag whatever. Just just sort of having fun with it. Yep. And it worked, I tried it for a bit, and it's kind of hilarious, like how much random engagement you get from people who would never see your post just by putting in like a really, really weird, just putting in hashtag yoga. And then all of a sudden, yoga people are seeing your post about, playing a random gig, whatever it might be. So just have fun with social media.
Yeah. I was thinking back, I was talking yesterday to someone about social media and how before 2014, social media used to be filled with food, cats, music, art, discussions, holiday photos, and then something happened around between 2014 and 2016, all became political, and especially Facebook and Twitter, it just became a cesspit, and we're needing to go back to that. We're needing to go back to before politics, so it's just back to like music and creative stuff. Personally, I just see it's fell. Social media in the last 6-7 years has just completely. It's not social anymore. It's now the opposite. Social.
It's very antisocial.
It's antisocial.
It's social in the sense that people are just creating, little echo chambers that they like to sit in and then go, yes, this is all correct. This is all the correct information I'm getting, and they aren't exposing themselves to, even if they completely disagree.
It's good because it leaves the door open to see. This is what I hate about bands that become political, because you're turning off so many people. I would personally, as a general rule, I would just be apolitical. Yeah, because people see enough of that crap on social media. It's nice to see a band just post some cool stuff, and it's like nice. They're doing some music or they're playing a nice gig somewhere, and it gets away from all that toxic negativity online all the time.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I the only time I would kind of push back with that is that you don't want to, because there was definitely a period of time where musicians were, calling out, certain civil rights issues and stuff in songs, and then all of a sudden, all of that disappeared for a good decade, and then it came back in like the late 80s, early 90s. So like for quite a lot of like the late 70s and 80s, you just have very flaccid, bland love songs.
Yep.
And you don't want that either. That's just absolutely mindless. It doesn't provide anything. Music is supposed to, apart from entertaining you, I think it should sort of like make you think and feel certain things. So, if you're
a political band,
if you're, I'm not saying that because I have a problem with bands just becoming, like a spokes person for a certain political movement. Doesn't matter what political movement that is. Either way, it kind of bugs me. But if you want to call out certain injustices, that you feel are wrong, I think you should 100% do that. And it's been done in all sorts of different ways. Like What's Going On is a Marvin Gaye tune, and it's about people getting conscripted to fight in Vietnam, and it's like, why are we doing this? Why are we even fighting this war in the first place?
Yeah, that's the musical content thing.
Yeah,
but like posting like petitions and stuff like that, using your band's influence to push some political agenda
to push some kind of political agenda or party. I
just hate that personally. I would steer clear. I mean, if that's your jam, fine, whatever. But I don't know. It just turns folk off, and I think there's enough negativity and stuff online. If you want to be political, do it on your own private platform. That's what I would say.
It's like that old saying, isn't it? You don't discuss politics or religion with friends.
Yeah.
It's
kind of like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So step 4, rehearsing. So I'm just going to fire through just the points I've got here. So get a good sound before you start playing. That's like number 1. As soon as you arrive, plug in, get it sounding good in the rehearsal studio. Get the vocalist up first, turn the mic up till it squeals, turn it back till it's not squealing and it sounds good, no feedback, and then build the band around the vocalist. Don't do the opposite and make everything dead loud and then, I can't hear the vocals. No, vocals first, or the melody first, and then worry about the rest of the stuff.
Yeah.
Get a good sound. Make sure everyone can hear themselves. Everyone's got good monitoring. Make sure the studio monitors are all working. Goes without saying.
No, totally. I 100% agree with that. Less faffing about,
Yep.
Make your setup nice and simple too. I guess it's as an extra add-on to making sure you've got a good sound. I've played in bands before and it's always the guitarist, where they have like 10 billion pedals and they just spend a good portion of their rehearsal just constantly like
tweaking.
You're basically staring at their feet and hunched over the entire time instead of playing guitar. It's just like, can you stop? Just, do you know what? That should have been done at home. Yep. Like, I know I'm a bass player, right? I've only got 4 pedals or something.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't really need that much. I'm never going to have any use for like a reverb pedal. But you know what I did before when I got my pedals set up? I just trialed the sounds in the house.
No.
And I was like, that's a good distortion sound. That's a good boost sound. This is a good setting for my octave pedal, and if I want to do something else, this is what I'll turn to, right? And unless you're not planning on changing it, and then you don't have to take a picture. But if you plan on changing it for different bands, take pictures.
Yeah.
Have that set up.
The problem is with guitarists is they don't bring their own amps to rehearsals a lot. It's usually they just take the amp that's in the studio, but their pedal boards are set. So they turn up and they plug into an amp and, it doesn't sound like the one at home. So they sit and tweak their pedals till they make it sound like the one at home, but it'll never sound like the one at home because it's a different amp. And then they go to another amp the following week in a different room, and it's the same deal. They constantly tweak. It's like if you just had maybe an amp that you took with you, like a small 1x12, or you would just have your sound all the time, and you could cut back on the amount of pedals because you don't need 10 pedals. You don't.
Or you know, like with the whole amp thing, and you're going into a rehearsal studio, just suck it up. You know, it's never going to sound the same as like your valve amp in your house.
Yeah.
You know, it's the sound's always going to change. You know,
it is what it is.
It just is what it is.
Same with drums. Like you go to a rehearsal studio and you're at the mercy of the drum kit that they provide.
Yeah.
Like some kits I've played, going into some places, you're like, oh my God.
And at the end of the day, it's also in the hands of the player. I've heard my, I could pass around the same bass guitar, same settings to 10 different bass players, and you would have 10 completely different sounds.
Uh-huh.
And I'm sure it's the same with drums.
Uh-huh.
You know, same pair of sticks, same drum kit. It's the person that makes it sound totally different.
Well, I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I went to a drum clinic in the RSAMD, it was then called, it's now the RCS,
right,
Conservatoire, to see Simon Phillips, who used to play for The Who and Toto and all that. He did a clinic. He had his big, massive Tama kit. So it was a Tama Star Classic. I think it was the Babinga or the Maple or whatever it was. And there was also a little kit sitting next to it, and it just so happened to be the Tama Superstar Hybrid Drive in black, the one that's sitting behind me, which is mine. There was two kits, so because there was like a support act on before playing the little kit, and he got up actually from his big monster kit, and he was like, I'm going to go and have a shot at the little kit, it looks cool. And he went and tried it, and I had this kit, I bought this kit in 2009, the clinic was 2010, so I had just bought the kit, and he made that kit sound like his big kit. He made it sound as good, almost as good as his big kit, and that's when it dawned on me. It was like, it's not the kit, it's the player. And you look online, like you can see professional drummers like playing cheap, like £200 kits, and they make them sound like £1,200 kits.
Totally, yeah.
And I was like, okay, I just need to work on my playing.
Yeah, that was also the eureka moment for me, where it was like, it doesn't really matter how much the instrument actually costs, it's about how you actually use it, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, I guess that kind of goes all in hand with like practice. That's also how you get a good sound before playing.
Yeah, helps.
Make sure you practice.
Yep, and know what you're going to rehearse before you start rehearsing.
Yes.
Like
make a plan.
Coming in and go, like, what are we doing? So like, we've got 3 songs. I've written these 3 songs. Let's have a jam. Okay, we're doing that. We've got a gig coming up. We need to rehearse these 9 songs for the set. Let's do that. Simple. Phones down / away / off / on fire in a pile. Put the phones down. Like, you can go on Twitter or Tinder later. Like, no one cares. You're in for 3 hours. You're in the band.
Yeah.
You're together doing this one thing. You're present. Don't be sitting in the corner like scrolling through something. Whatever.
Yeah, totally.
Don't, because even if you're not involved in what's going on, maybe you're in the corner and you're like, what's going on right now? It doesn't involve you. You being on your phone, puts up a wall between you and everyone else that they just won't approach you. You're segregating and bubbling yourself off from everybody else.
Not to mention, the other thing that you're missing out on is that you know, as an observer, there will be things that you will notice that the people that are practicing won't have noticed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
totally.
you're by being on your phone and being disconnected, you're not helping the band.
Yeah. Pay attention.
You could, yeah, exactly. And to be honest, it should be paying attention and being an observer. It should be fun, right? It shouldn't be a chore. Mm-hmm. If you're in a band and it's a chore, you know, you shouldn't be. You should just stop being in that band then.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. Because in my youth, I was slightly more introverted than I am now. I spent most of my time listening rather than talking. So I observed a lot of, in a lot of situations, in bands and in social situations, I would often just sit and stay quiet. Yeah. But I would sit and observe people and pay attention to what people were saying and doing. And you learn so much just by sitting and saying nothing and listening. Mm-hmm. And there's that saying, like, you have 2 ears and one mouth for a reason, because it's more valuable to listen than to speak.
So wise.
So wise. And honestly, like, just sometimes it's better just to pay attention. People take notice of you as well when you actually pay attention to them. If you're not paying attention to someone, like, who's going to care? Like, just be observant. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's the phones just distract you.
100%.
Another version of that: don't play over people while they're talking. So you're trying to discuss a point, and then the guitarist is doing his tapping solos and all
this. You know what? I would even add this too, because I'm quite guilty of that, and I thought that it was okay for me to. It's this thing where I am actually actively listening. I'm a fidgeter. I like to fidget with things. So, you know.
Is that ADHD?
Maybe.
Maybe
it could be.
You have to keep something going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rachel gets really annoyed with me because she'll be talking to me and I'm like, yes, I am paying attention. But then I'm like, you know, on bass guitar, and what I used to do was, but I'm going to stop doing it. I just turn the bass off.
Yeah.
And then I'm still noodling and I'm still listening and engaging and talking, right?
It's fine for you, but annoying for everyone else.
But it's fine for me. But then I was like, oh, wait, there is still an acoustic element of it in that somebody is just listening to, like, it's just like really, really quiet, you know?
Yep. Absolutely.
Even that, stop it.
Yes.
You know, I'm an awful fidgeter. Surely, I mean, you being an observer, you probably noticed this. I'd like tap my foot.
Yeah, you do.
Like slap my.
That's classic ADHD behavior. So someone with ADHD, when they sit still and they have to focus on one thing, their mind wanders. So what they end up doing is they do something that they don't have to think about to engage their brain in the thing that they're supposed to be engaging in. So there's a podcast I listen to where one of the hosts does this. He has like a baseball bat. And when he's doing the podcast or he's doing some work, he'll just sit and swing around this baseball bat while he's doing his work or reading or something, because if he doesn't do that, his brain will go, look, a shiny thing, look over there, and can't concentrate. So his brain is like, oh, baseball bat. Meanwhile, his conscious brain can focus on the thing that he's doing. People use squeeze balls as well.
Are you telling me I have ADHD and I never knew it?
You could. See, it doesn't really bother me.
Yeah.
I get what I get is I can't listen to like audiobooks while sitting down.
Same.
I have to walk around.
I listen to audiobooks when I'm walking
or working,
when I'm doing chores, and it has to be mindless chores.
Yes, yeah.
Dishes, hoovering, you know, stuff like that. 100%. Driving. You know, exercising.
I cannot sit down on the couch and listen to a podcast. I can't concentrate. I can't hear what the person's saying, which is probably why I'm really bad at reading as well, because I'm reading the book and then the next minute I'm just looking at lines and I'm not taking in any information. I have to
It
reread.
depends. Like,
Can do it.
I've managed to get back in because I was. I'm one of these people where once I get focused on a thing, I can be like hyper focused to the point where I like drown out everything around me. Rachel hates it when I'm just in the house and I'm playing like a video game or something.
Flow state.
Yeah, I can get into flow state pretty easily. Playing a video game or reading a book, so I can achieve it, but I'm probably fidgeting. With the game it's easy because you're fidgeting already.
Yes.
With a controller, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, beside the point. Yeah, don't play over people. It sucks.
Yeah.
Don't even play over people when they're tuning. That sucks even more. As for the drummers, you don't do it. You're the most conscientious drummer I've ever played with.
No, I never, ever, ever play random beats while people are talking. I just think it's a height of rudeness. So I know I hate it, so I don't do it.
Yeah.
I would love to. I'm like, I really want to tap out this beat. Sometimes if I'm like, I better have a wee practice of this just before we start,
little bit of
I'll
body
maybe
percussion.
tap out on my lap or something.
Yeah.
But no, it's just so annoying. You touched on this. Practice your individual part at home, not in the rehearsal studio. So the time to learn this riff is not 5 seconds before you're about to play it with the band. It's when you're at home. So yeah, practice your parts. Discuss band politics, band decisions outside of the rehearsral space, i.e. in the pub or someone's house.
Yeah.
Because if things get heated, it will ruin the rehearsal.
I would probably say, if you have to, leave it for the end.
Leave it for the end, yeah.
Leave it for the end of the rehearsal, you know, and put it out there that that's what you're going to be doing at the end of the rehearsal.
Yep.
So people just know.
Yep.
But yeah, 100% agree, because there's nothing worse. I've been in rehearsals, I'm sure you have been too, where we've had a discussion at the beginning and some people agree, some people disagree, and then you're all just a bit moody with each other, and then the music sucks.
Correct.
We're quite lucky I'm quite lucky in the situations where that has happened. People are already, we're only human, so of course we're going to have disagreements and falling outs and little silly things like that, so I don't ever let it sort of get to me. And luckily the people that I work with are the same.
Yeah.
But if you're a younger person, I'm assuming that if you're listening to this and you're starting a band, you're like 16, 17, a lot of people, their empathy is still developing. So it's very much, you notice this, right? Like 14, 15-year-olds, it's all me, 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 me. I'm the most important person here.
Yeah.
It's all about them. And I was definitely like that. And then all of a sudden you grow this awareness of like, it's not... There's other people, that have complex needs and lives and views about things, So then you have to take them into consideration, and it's all part of growing up. Basically, if you know that if you're in a band with like emotionally underdeveloped people, maybe leave heated discussions for another time. Yeah. Or for, the end. Yeah. But if you feel like you're in a band with more, even still, like, leave it for the end of the rehearsal, because it's not fun.
Just as a rule.
Yeah.
Hello. This is Gavin from the future. We decided to cut this episode in two because it ended up going 2 hours long, and yeah, that's too long. So this is going to be the end of part 1. And next week we'll start with beginning of part 2. So we'll fire straight into that and continue where we left off. Not sure where this is going to be split, but I'm going to do all this in editing. So yeah, magic. So we'll catch you next week. Thanks again for listening. And as always, leave us a review and all that good stuff. So yeah, check out part 2 next week. Bye.